back in 1982 was when I think I probably first became infected myself. And it wasn't until 1983 when I started getting sick, back in the Midwest, which was, a hard place to get HIV/AIDS back then anyway, 1983. So I first started getting really, really, really sick and having to give up certain things, and then I was diagnosed with GRID. Going from the Midwest, Kansas, in the early 80s and mid 80s, people were dying, not at the same rate, but as catastrophic because, it was a very, very small community, but losing 2 or 3 people was like losing 200 or 300 people. And as I was getting sicker and then sometimes better and then sicker and sometimes better, I knew to survive I needed to move back to California where things were at least a little bit more accepting, and there were at least things happening. So I moved back to California, the Bay Area, San Francisco in the mid to late 80s, and I just took up the chalice right away of raising money and working in the community. And of course, all of my friends were dying or sick. So it wasn't a very difficult decision to make. Actually, we didn't really have a choice. I was probably going to and or putting together at least 5 to 10 memorials a week, and I was probably taking care of probably twice that many people dying. You're in a constant state of repair, fix, people dying, people trying to survive, trying to fight for funding, trying to raise money. I mean, basically you were in sort of a constant state of war for yourself if you were struggling with your own health issues, and then of course along with your friends. So for me initially what it did was, I did a typical thing. I went down the hardcore drug addiction and all of that stuff to self-medicate and deal with what was happening around me. So, for me personally, I did that for a couple of years to the point of being actually homeless. But I never lost sight of what we needed to do and what we were doing, and I never checked out in that way. What it did was it brought us out of the bathhouses, it brought us out of the dark alleyways, it brought us out of the back rooms of the bars, because we had to. I mean, you would go one day and see your friend, and the next day you would hear that he had either died or was, hooked up to all these machines at Ward 86 and on his way out. It absolutely, completely, and totally devastated us. We didn't know what to do. But, at the same time, in an odd way, it galvanized us as well. I mean, we had to come together in a way that we had never known before. Basically, there was nothing. There was no education. There were no, the public health departments, even the medical, establishment, they knew nothing. So, I mean, we had to take up the chalice for, medical care, for education, for trying to come up with even how we caught it, because nobody even knew how you were actually getting it. So we had to devise, the safer sex practices back then. I mean, basically, we had to do everything from the ground up, and not just that, but we had to raise the money to take care of each other because, you were employed one day and out of a job the next, and no income, no health insurance, no way to pay your rent, no way to pay your bills. So it was just so much that came at us at once that for me personally, I think it was just, like I said, I mean, so busy doing what I'm doing that I don't really have time to think about what I've done. It's just you do what needs to be done, and I don't think we came up for air for 20 years. The distinguishing difference between the leather community and the gay community at large, the difference in response was we'd already been living a sort of marginal lifestyles, so we weren't that concerned about what people thought or what they were going to think of us, by getting out there and fighting the fight. There was a very large part of the gay community that didn't want to know about it, didn't want to have anything to do with it. We called them, the polo wearing, Macy's shopping kind of gay community. And we weren't afraid of what people thought of us. We knew we had to get in there and fight in order to save each other. And so I think that was one major distinction. We really didn't give a shit. We did what it took. And there was a lot of them that turned their backs on us within our own community. We did not want to admit that the type of sex that we were having was killing us. And we did not want to admit that a lot of that sex was happening in the bathhouses and the back rooms of those bars, which I partook of just as much as everybody else did. But once it started, And once it started happening, I stopped having unsafe sex. You know, once I was diagnosed, once it happened, I stopped having unsafe sex. But these guys that wouldn't get tested and these guys that would just kept on with the behavior, I mean, the bottom line is it really did, you know, it certainly didn't help. Let's just put it that way. And I strongly believe in that to this day. There's a lot of Leathermen from our generation that don't believe that. They believe that it was all, you know, government and et cetera, and that what we were doing wasn't wrong. And it's not that what we were doing was wrong or right. It's just we weren't educated. And until we got educated, we should have changed our habits a little bit. PTSD is something I actually notice more now because, you know, we lose less people. But I find that when I lose somebody now, I actually have almost a harder, a harder time now sometimes because, you know, we just lost a great community member just a couple of weeks ago. And I think that's where I notice sometimes the PTSD, because when you lose somebody that you've actually have maybe known for a long time, well, you know, the people that are gone, I kind of have a philosophy: you never die until every person who knew you dies. And so, you know, a lot of those memories of people that are gone live in some of the people that are still here. So when I lose one of those people, then I kind of lose all those other people all over again. Looking at my life now, it might sound kind of strange, but AIDS was the best thing that ever happened to me personally, because it gave me the ability to grasp and hold on to and value the things that are often in lives just kind of a passing thing. And that's humanity and dignity and respect, and the ability to do what needs to be done and don't make a big deal out of it. Just do what needs to be done and get it done, and continue to do what needs to be done for your community. A lot of the old farts, you know, people my age and older, you know, they lament over the young generation, and everybody is, oh, you know, they're entitled and they don't know what we went through and blah, 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 blah. And I always say, you know what, then that means we did a good job, because, you know, isn't it everybody's goal, especially in the gay community and especially the leather scene, isn't it our goal to make things better for the next generation? So, you know, the only legacy I care about leaving is know who you are, know where you're going, respect the past, and that prevents entitlement. And there's going to be a fight around every corner. Some of it's going to be, oh my God, you know, devastating and catastrophic. Some of the fights that are coming for the new generation aren't going to be that difficult. And I'm tickled for that. I mentor so many leather men in their 20s and 30s now, and they actually ask me the same thing. Well, what do you think the legacy should be, or what do you think? I think the legacy should just be, you know, not that big of a deal. Just the fact that we worked hard and we went through a terrible, horrible, horrible ordeal. We came out of it on the other side as better human beings, and because of that, your life is going to be better as well. And just go out there and continue to move forward and make it a little bit better. Nothing really more complicated than that.